Hi, I'm Frank Hartman with the Hartman Law Firm, and I'm a practicing attorney in Charleston, South Carolina, specializing in personal injury and auto accidents. And today we're going to talk about some aspects of a trucking accident and how it differs from your general auto accident. The sorts of considerations that your attorney is going to take into play when he is working your claim. The first thing that is interesting about a trucking accident is typically in any truck these days, you're going to have a computerized, what's called black box. And the reason why it's there is in the event of a collision, typically it's going to document what the driver was doing as far as brakes, acceleration, speed, all those sorts of things immediately and up to the point of the collision. And in that respect, it'll show you a pretty good photograph of what happened immediately before the collision. Another reason why they have the black box on board is because it's a way of monitoring the driver, because one of the biggest issues that you have with truckers is obviously they're in a hurry to get wherever it is they're going, and so at one point they had a tendency to overdrive. Maybe they would, instead of driving the 12 hours that's typically required, maybe they drive 14 or 16, or they just wouldn't sleep at all. And in that respect, they would be, falling asleep at the wheel, which can be an incredibly dangerous circumstance if you're driving an 18-wheeler and you've got a bunch of, little tiny cars that are immediately around you. So the computers that are on board now actually document, when they're driving, when the truck is actually moving forward, and when it is stopped. And the guy actually is mandated to take at least an 5 to 8 hour sleeping period. And that's important, like I said, because the biggest issue previously was that they had a tendency to want to overdrive to try to get there on time or to get there early to make their mark. The second thing that you should take into consideration when you're working a trucking accident is what's called a failure to screen. And what I'm talking about there is an employer has an obligation to go and look into the background of any potential employee that it's planning on hiring, especially in the context of trucking. The idea being you're looking for individuals who are, maybe they have DUIs in their past, or they have a history of poor driving, or they have, God forbid, a history of collisions and hurting people. The employer has an obligation to go out and seek that information before they hire. And a lot of times they drop the ball on that. And in the context of discovery, a good attorney is going to find that, and it's going to be something that you use in the context of a trial against a trucking company, that it was a failure to screen on their part, and just generally speaking, they shouldn't have hired the person to begin with. The last thing that I would want to talk about today in consideration of a potential trucking collision case is failure to properly maintain the truck. And now it sounds pretty common sense when you really sit down and think about it, but you'd be surprised how often it is the case that the company simply just didn't maintain the truck well enough, and it contributed to the reasons for the collision. What I mean by that is your typical brakes or tires, all the various things that you need to maintain on a vehicle to keep it roadworthy, they don't do so. So maybe the tires are worn, there's not enough tread, or the brakes, they were not maintained properly so that it didn't have enough braking capacity and it was unable to stop and unable to prevent the collision. These are all sorts of things that you're going to need to bring in engineers to examine the truck after, post-collision, and to document and potentially present in the context of discovery or possibly trial in the event that it actually goes that far, but certainly within the context of presenting to an insurance carrier. I'm Frank Hartman, and today we talked about some things that you need to consider in the context of a trucking collision case. If you're watching this video, you have questions regarding your trucking collision. I answer questions like this all the time, and I would strongly encourage you to pick up the telephone and call me at 843-300-7600, or feel free to look me up at thehartmanlawfirm.com. And again, thanks for watching.